If you're looking for a beginner-friendly crochet purse to make, then you've come to the right place. Make sure you subscribe and click that notification bell so you're always up to date with all the patterns at Little John Yarns. This rib crochet hat is created using single crochets in back and forth rows. So let's hop into the pattern breakdown. We'll begin with back and forth single crochets in increasing rows. Then we'll complete a set of even rows, followed by decreasing rows again. The panel will then be folded into its purse shape. Okay, let's do the materials for this video. I'm using bulky yarn and a 6mm crochet hook, but you can substitute Aran weight or worsted weight yarn. Just use a 5mm crochet hook, but your purse will come out smaller. The size of the purse with my material used is 12 by 10.5. As usual, I provide timestamps for easy pattern navigation. We're going to begin with a chain of 60. Next, we're going to single crochet into the second chain from the hook. 1, 2, single crochet into the second chain from the hook, and single crochet in each stitch all the way across. So pause your video here, continue placing 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way across, and I'll meet you at the other side. We've made it to the end of row 1, and you should have a total of 59 single crochets. Next, for row 2, we're going to chain 1, turn your work. Your chain 1 does not count as a stitch. We're going to place 2 back loop single crochets into the very first stitch. So if you turn your work to the very top, you'll see a V. You'll see the front loop and a back loop. We're going to single crochet 2 stitches into that back loop single crochet. So here's your first back loop single crochet. Back into the very same stitch with another single crochet. Now we're going to place 1 back loop single crochet into each stitch all the way across. So 1 back loop single crochet into the next stitch, and in each one all the way across. So pause your video here, and I'll meet you at the completion of row 2. We've just completed row 2, and you should have a total of 60 single crochets in this row. To begin row 3, we're going to chain 1, turn your work. We're just going to be placing regular single crochets in each stitch across. So single crochet into the very first stitch. We're working in both loops. So single crochet into the first stitch and single crochet in each stitch all the way across until you make it to the end. So pause your video here and single crochet all the way across until you make it to the end, and we're going to place an increase at the very end. We've made it all the way across, and on your very last single crochet, we're going to do an increase. That is 2 single crochets into the very same stitch. So this is 1, back into that same last stitch, 2. So at the end of row 3, you should have a total of 61 stitches. Your last 2 rows is just going to be a pattern repeat. So we're going to repeat the last 2 rows for a total of 4 times. If that sounds confusing, don't worry. I'll leave a timestamp below on where the beginning of the pattern repeat starts. So row 4 would be chain 1, 2 single crochets into the back loop, and back loop single crochet all the way across. And row 5 would be single crochet through both loops all the way across with 2 single crochets placed at the very last stitch. So pause your video here, repeat the last 2 rows for a total of 4 times, and I'll meet you at the end. We've made it to the end of row 11, and you should have a total of 69 single crochets. All right, for row number 12, you're going to chain 1 and turn your work. The next 2 rows are going to be a pattern repeat. So for this row, we're just going to back loop single crochet into that very same stitch and back loop single crochet evenly in each stitch across. So it's just going to be 1 back loop single crochet in each stitch across. So pause your video here, and I'll meet you at the other side. We've made it to the very end of the row, and since there was no increases, we still have 69 single crochets. For the next row, chain 1, turn your work. And this is going to be the second part of your pattern repeat. For this row, we're just going to single crochet back into the very same stitch and single crochet in each stitch. We're going through both loops this time, both stitches all the way across. So pause your video here, continue going through both loops, single crochets all the way across, and I'll meet you at the other side. Okay, we've made it to the very end of the row, and like I said, there's no increases, so you should still have 69 single crochets. We are going to do the last 2 rows an additional 7 more times. So we're going to do a pattern repeat for the next row. We're going to turn your work, working into the back loops, single crochet all the way across, and the following row, we're going to chain 1 and do single crochets working in through both loops. Don't worry, if you can't remember the pattern repeat, I'll leave a timestamp below on exactly where your 2-row pattern repeat begins. So pause your video here and complete this 7 more times. We've just completed row 27. So now we're going to chain 1 and let's begin row 28. We're going to begin a 2-row pattern repeat. To start, we're going to back loop, single crochet 2 stitches together. To do that, you're going to insert your hook into the back loop of the first stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. Insert your hook into the back loop of the second stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. Now, we're just going to back loop, single crochet in each stitch all the way across. So just 1 singular back loop, single crochet. Pause your video here, and I'll meet you at the other side. We've made it to the very end of this row, and you should have a total of 68 stitches. For row 29, let's chain 1 and turn your work. We're going to be working back into the 2 loops of your stitches. So we're just going to single crochet in each stitch all the way across, and we're going to leave the last 2 stitches of this row unworked. So pause your video here and continue placing single crochets all the way across this row. We've made it to the last 2 stitches of the row. So we're going to do a single crochet 2 stitches together to reduce the ends. So to do that, you'll insert your hook into the first stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. Insert your hook into the second stitch, yarn over, pull up a loop. You'll have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops on your hook. At the end of this row, you should have a total of you'll have a total of 67 stitches. So now you're just going to repeat the last 2 rows over 4 more times. So we're going to repeat row 28 and 29 for a total of 4 times. So pause your video here and I'll meet you at the completion of your rows. We made it to the very end of row 37 and you should have a total of 59 single crochets. Next, we're going to chain 1. And we're going to begin row 38. For row 38, we're just going to back loop, single crochet in each stitch all the way across. So back loop, single crochet in each stitch all the way across. So pause your video here and I'll meet you at the other side. We're completely done reducing. We made it to the very end of this row, and now we're just going to single crochet evenly around the entire border of your work. A quick little tip, when you're working on the unfinished edge like this, I place 1 single crochet per row. And I also, just for future references, I like to mark off my corners because I know my finished sides have 59 stitches going this way, and I'll put a marker, and 59 going this way. I always like to mark off my corners, but it's not necessary. So finish evenly spacing single crochets around the entire border of your work. We've made it back around to the very first stitch and we'll put that last single crochet in. And now just fasten off your work. And then we'll move on to assembling your purse. Okay, I already have the piece folded over. So I inserted my hook into that very first stitch on the corner piece. And remember how we had the stitch mark over here? So what we're going to do, we're going to count 6 stitches down from the stitch marker corner piece. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Insert your hook. Oh, and make sure your purse is facing inside out. So now take your yarn and we're going to begin to slip stitch to join going all the way down the side. I always like to begin by attaching the yarn with a chain 1 as the first slip stitch. Now go into the second stitch and the back stitch and slip stitch loosely, because if you slip stitch too tightly, your work will bunch. So front stitch, back stitch, slip stitch. Continue that all the way down your work and I'll meet you at the bottom. We've made it to the very end. All you have to do now is fasten off your work. And we're going to repeat the same exact thing on the opposite side of your purse. Unfortunately, I forgot to film this part, but if you want to have a contrasting color going around the border of your purse top, just attach some black yarn and do a little single crochets going around the top border of the top of your purse. Next, we're going to make the strap. We're going to drop down to a 5mm crochet hook. And we're going to chain until your chain is about 35 inches. Once you have your chain that's 35 inches, we'll move on to the next spot. All right, so now we're just going to single crochet into the second chain from the hook. 1, 2. And single crochet all the way down your work. So pause your video here, continue placing single crochets all the way down your work, and I'll meet you at the other side. We've made it almost to the very end. We just have the last stitch left of this row, and we're going to place 2 single crochets into that very last stitch. So 1 and 2. Now we're going to turn our work and we're going to work underneath your stitches now. So your previous single crochet at the bottom of it, we're just going to single crochet into the bottom. And I'm going to work over my ends as I go, so I won't have to weave in my ends later. And single crochet. And continue placing single crochets all the way down to the opposite side. So pause your video here, and I'll meet you when you make it to the other side. We've made it to the very end of our row, and we're just going to place 2 single crochet into the very last stitch. 1, 2, and slip stitch to join into that very first one. And fasten off your work. And here's what your chain should look like so far. Now we're going to see these little spaces right here, space, space, space. We're going to begin to slip stitch into those spaces to create a nice little black line going across your work. So we'll begin that next. All right, to begin, I got my black yarn. I didn't have thick yarn, so I just put 2 worsted weight strands together. Insert my hook into the very first loop of the middle spaces. So the first space of the middle spaces. So here's a space right here. I'm going to insert my hook behind it. I already have my loop ready. And pull my loop through. Now let's go into that next hole. And we're just going to slip stitch. And pull, loop through, and pull through the loop on your hook. Going through the next space. Yarn over, pull that loop through, and pull the loop through from the one on your hook. We're going to continue doing that all the way down your work. And it's going to create a little slip stitch chain that's attached to your work all the way down. So pause your video here, continue placing those little slip stitch chains all the way down your bag handle, and I'll meet you when you're done. Once you make it to the end, this is what it looks like. And you're just going to do that last slip stitch and fasten off your work. We're now going to attach it to our purse. Now that we got our strap done, we're going to turn your purse inside out, and we're going to attach your strap to the inside out part of your purse. I'm not going to show you how to sew, but I'm going to show you how to attach it. Make sure your strap is also inside out, and we're just going to take a needle and some yarn and just sew your strap on together. And we're going to do the same exact thing on the opposite side. Make sure it's the right direction. And just sew your strap on the other side. and I'll show you what it looks like all complete. If you enjoyed this pattern, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and check out my other crochet bag. Alright guys, I'll see you on the very next pattern.